The hour of 7 p.m. has come, and we are going to open this Borough Council meeting of April 14th. We will start with the moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead that. I just have a short moment of silence for today. Unfortunately, there was another shooting this week in the New York subway. But more importantly, I'd like to focus on some of what I saw in some images, which, and I also follow our local EMS, and they had, Nate Herrick had also brought it up, of noting that, people who know how to use or to provide first aid in an immediate situation. Of course, we have EMS and we have our first responders, but also all of us have the ability of learning that, and I have learned years ago, so I definitely need a refresher. And I think that was something that I took away, and I think that we all have that ability to take a little bit of time, and we can be helpful in situations that are unfortunate. So I would like to just have a moment of silence and for all the folks that give a little extra and take the time to care for others. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Cramsey?
Here.
Mr. Hicks?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Landis?
Here.
Ms. Mellon?
Here.
Ms. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Stubbe?
Here.
And Ms. Hayes?
Here.
Thank you. Do we actually have to have any sort of approval to have Councillor Hicks on Zoom? Yes.
I'll move that we allow Councillor Hicks to participate via virtually via Zoom for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. No. Aye for the first one. Sorry. This is only my second day as mayor, so just bear with me. All right, so we have a presentation tonight. We are recognizing Sergeant Mark Brubaker for all of these years of service on his retirement. Representative Klein, would you like to start?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Is this on? Okay, I think it's on. So, I'm Representative Barb Blime, and I just very honored and humbled to be here today to present you with a House of Representatives citation signed by myself and the Speaker of the House. And this citation is in recognizing you, Sergeant Brubaker, and for your retirement after 20 years of dedicated and distinguished service to the Carlisle Police Department. And I would like to read it if you don't mind. I know it's kind of long, but it is so impressive. So, into the record here, Sergeant Brubaker began his career with the Carlisle Police Department on January 28, 2002, and rose through the ranks to become corporal in January 2012 and sergeant in May of 2013. During his career, he served as a field training officer from 2005 to 2017 and led the field training program from 2010 to 2017. Assigned as a dog law officer from 2006 to 2018, Sergeant Brubaker further served as a member of the Cumberland County Special Emergency Response Team from 2008 to 2018 and as a CERT team leader from 2012 to 2017. To his great credit, he instituted the naloxone I know I'm probably not pronouncing that right, distribution program for the Carlisle Police Department in May of 2016. He's the recipient of the John H. Cover Medal for Non-Lethal Heroism in 2005. Sergeant Brubaker was named as the department's Officer of the Year in 2007. He faithfully displayed great loyalty, commitment, and professionalism in the performance of his duties as a member of the Carlisle Police Department since his enlistment. Sergeant Brubaker served with consummate skill, upheld the laws of this Commonwealth, and served as a role model for all those who aspire to a career in law enforcement. And I'm hopeful that there are many more coming to serve our Commonwealth as police in the future. Now, therefore, the House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania pays a respectful tribute to Sergeant Mark Brubaker upon his richly deserved retirement, notes with pride and gratitude his record of service, which far exceeds those standards normally ascribed as exemplary, offers best wishes for every future success and happiness. Congratulations.
We have a plaque here that we are going to be bestowing to you on this wonderful day, and it is from the Borough of Carlisle in honor of 20 years of service, Sergeant Mark L. Brubaker, with our greatest appreciation for your service and dedication to the Borough of Carlisle, presented on this day by Carlisle Borough Council. And I will just say, I was first of all impressed with the wonderful list of accomplishments and years, but I think that the thing that I take away from this day is the years of service and commitment to this place. I mean, each one of us do it differently, but like we are connected and we care about it. And I always see people's resumes and it lists all the accomplishments, but the element of the naloxone, going out of your way to see an opportunity and add those elements into our structure here at the borough is really important. And I think that each one of us have the ability of doing just what you've done. So we really greatly appreciate all the years that you've been here, and we hope that you find a good place to hang this.
Sergeant Brubaker, would you mind handing that to your wife and step in front and center? Thank you. Madam Deputy Mayor, member of the Borough Council, from now on, whenever someone leaves the department, we will give them a certificate of honorable service as a discharge. This is to recognize Sergeant Mark Brubaker for 20 years of honorable service to the citizens of the Borough of Carlisle Police Department, signed by Manager Susan Armstrong and myself, Tara Landis. Okay.
Okay, next up, we will have our first quarter fiscal status update from our Finance Director, Richard Juday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Hello? Okay.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. Very excited to be here. It is a common misconception that accountants like to present, but nevertheless, we're going to get through this. You'll see that I have upgraded my presentation. Last time it was just a white sheet, and now we have a template that I found. So we'll get moving on the first quarter 2022. First question you may have is what happened to fourth quarter 2021? You didn't miss the season finale. That's coming. Our auditors are working on our independent audit. They're working on getting together that annual financial report, and they'll be here sometime after June to present those final numbers to you. So we'll go ahead and get started. What I wanted to start with is just a summary of our primary funds. We're not going to go through all these tonight, but as we progress throughout the year, you're going to hear us talking about each one of these funds and how our activities relate to them. So that first category is our governmental funds. These are our tax-supported funds. Our general fund, tax-supported capital projects fund, doesn't really generate revenue. So if it's not funded by debt or grants, you're going to see that being supported by the general fund, again, tax-supported. The highway aid fund, that is a special revenue fund where we obtain a single grant, our liquid fuels grant, and we record that activity in this special revenue fund associated with the costs associated with that also shown there. Our enterprise funds, those are our business type activity funds where we provide a specific service to our customers and they compensate us for that service either through a fee or through service rates. The last category fund there is our fiduciary funds. We maintain certain monies either through the tax collection where we collect money for the county and the school district, and then also our pension funds where we maintain these funds. We're the custodian of the funds, but we can't really utilize those funds for anything borough related. To get started, we have our general fund. We have a lot to get through, so I won't be reading the slides. I think that'll be a little dry, so we want to make this as exciting as possible. So our general fund is our primary governmental fund. Anything that's not recorded in one of those other funds I listed is going to be shown here. To start, we'll take a look at what we expect for 2022. This is our budget revenues. On the left there are our primary revenues. You'll see that the general fund is supported primarily by tax-related revenues. 61% of all funds received will come from some sort of tax. The largest of those is our real estate property tax. That tax specifically is broken into two categories, our general purpose tax revenue and our fire service tax. All the money collected for fire service tax must be spent on fire-related activities. So in our current budget, our fire-related activities account for about $1.1 million of the general fund expense. We collect about $650,000 of fire tax revenue. So there's still a shortage there of costs associated with a fire tax that isn't paid for by that specific tax. So the rest of that money, costs related to Parks and Rec, the police, that all comes from the general purpose tax revenues. The concern, I guess you could say, for the general fund is stagnant recurring revenues. So when we look at budgeting each year, we say, okay, revenues are typically stagnant while expenses continue to rise. The only way to change that is to adjust the tax rates. So each year we balance the fact of, okay, we know that revenue is not increasing, but we do get one-time large revenues that may come in. So the last several years we've budgeted for a use of fund balance reserves, but have been fortunate enough to have one-time revenues that come in, offset those expenses, and allow us to be a little bit more flexible in when we choose to increase our rates while maintaining a stable fund balance. So each year we take a look at that balancing act to see when is the appropriate time to adjust rates and adjust taxes. We haven't had a tax increase since 2017. Taking a look at our planned budget expenses, you'll notice the largest piece of pie for the general fund is going to be our salaries and wages to pay for the services that we provide in the general fund. The other thing I wanted to point out is that red slice of pie. So we don't account for any capital expenses in the general fund. However, the general fund is responsible for ensuring that the capital projects fund is properly funded. So that red slice of pie is all the money that the general fund is going to contribute this year towards capital related projects. So that's almost $800,000 that we intend to use on that. If we want to take a look at the actual revenue and where we're at today, we're meeting expectations. 15% of budget collected in 2022. You would think that might be higher in the beginning of the year, but being that our primary revenues are taxes, we generally see those coming through in the second and third quarter. We just started collecting in March for our real property taxes, so we have a little bit of money coming in now, consistent with last year, but expect that to increase as the year goes on. The one area I wanted to point out here was our licenses and permits. So in the current year, it's much higher, about $130,000 higher than previous year, which is a good sign. This is one-time revenue that comes from building-related activity, large developments going in. We're going to see higher revenues related to the permits of those. Now, again, one-time revenues. So we had planned to have about $900,000 of fund balance used. If we continue at this pace, that's a good sign. We're going to see a decrease in that fund balance. So we're hopeful. It's a good performance at this point. We'll see how we perform as we move on. The expenditures, again, meeting expectations. The only thing I wanted to point out here is in our debt service line, much higher than last year. That relates to an action that council had taken in January where we agreed to contribute towards our tax increment financing guarantee payment. We had set aside one-time monies in 2021 in our savings account to pay for that, and in January we made that payment. So much higher than last year, so you're going to see a slight increase, but overall it was an activity that was funded. We're going to move on to our utility accounts. That's our water, stormwater, and sewer accounts. I wanted to start with our past due utility accounts. These are our active accounts. You'll notice in that table on the left, there's 4 columns showing the first quarter and the aged accounts receivable related to those years. You'll see before COVID hit, properties that were outstanding that we could lien based on our threshold were only 10. In 2022, that number has increased to over 100. While that is a massive increase, it's not surprising given that we had a moratorium in place on terminations and late fees. So the penalty to incentivize people to pay wasn't there. The good news is over on the right, there's some statistics on our first termination that we processed in 2022 in that first quarter. Initially, we had about 200 properties we expected to terminate. We went ahead and put in some additional actions to help people realize that we were starting up again, such as we put out social media blasts, we did a press release, we added a step into our termination process where if there was a property that was anticipated to be terminated, we sent them direct mail, letting them know that it's coming and that they were, on the list to be terminated, which we typically have not done in the past. And then ultimately we posted the properties 13 days before termination. So we only ended up with 8 terminations in that first quarter. I say only 8. I mean, it's a significant event for whoever had that termination. But typically we're seeing somewhere between 20 and 30 terminations pre-COVID. So all the activities we made actually reduced the number of terminations, and we were happy to see that people were paying down on those balances. I just got word that we had a termination this week, and again, it was 7 or 8 properties that were terminated in comparison to pre-COVID. So some of the actions we've taken has really helped get people motivated to make payments. Some of those actions, like I already mentioned, that we took, but we also provided financial assistance. So anytime somebody can't make a payment, we're working with them to establish payment agreements, to get them in touch with the proper sources to get financial assistance. Currently, there are 2 programs that we have available. We just ended our rental assistance program with the county, and the borough is continuing to offer the homeowners assistance program. But last week, council took action for us to participate in the Department of Health's, our Human Services, low-income assistance program. So we're currently working to get approved for that with them, and then once that happens, Stephanie will be blasting it out, and we'll be notifying individuals that that additional program is available, because we want to make sure that people have opportunities to get caught up and meet their obligations. So getting a little bit more into detail with our water fund, it's really hard to see, but on the right, I've listed our water rates in comparison to those municipalities around us. The borough is right in the middle of that. So while we're not the lowest, we're certainly not the highest, even with our 2022 rate increase. The water rates that we charge are our primary revenue source for the water fund. In terms of expenses, that big green piece of pie, that is going to be our capital expenses. 54% of overall water fund expenses will be capital related. Very expensive to rehabilitate our water system, but we have remained diligent and are doing that each year. 2022, we're expecting to spend about $3 million to rehabilitate that program. So where we are today with our revenue and expenses, on track. The only thing I wanted to point out here was our other revenues. So similar to our licensing and permitting, those developments that are going in, they paid their building permits. They are tapping into the waters, to the borough's water supply line, and they have to pay a certain fee to do that. That at this point, we're $124,000 over budget for that specific line item. Now, these are one-time revenues, so again, we're happy to get them. They will contribute to what we have available to spend on capital going forward. Certainly will be taken in consideration as we look at rates going forward, but it's not something that we can rely on every year that we're going to have these large revenues coming in. For stormwater, I've listed the fee schedule there. It's been the same since 2019. Basically, individuals are billed based on impervious coverage, and those fees that we obtain from that cover all the costs related to our operating our sewer fund. Again, the largest piece of the pie there, that's going to be capital. We have about $1 million listed there. I suspect that number will grow. In 2022, we have one large project, is our Bedford stormwater improvement project. That's about half the cost that we have planned in 2022. In 2022, we are working on a stormwater engineering study, which will help model our current stormwater infrastructure and give us an idea of how to prioritize the projects that we need to accomplish. And so I suspect that number will start to increase. The last couple of years since we've implemented it, we've been able to build a fund balance that will allow us to get more involved in these infrastructure rehabilitation projects. In terms of actual performance, we're meeting expectations. There was a slight increase in expenses in 2021. We did not have an MS4 coordinator in that first quarter. 2022 we did. So we're starting to see an increase in the salaries and expenses that were planned and budgeted for, but that's what you'll see different from 2021. Our sewer fund tells a very similar story to water. Again, our rates are right in the middle. In comparison, we did have a 2022 rate increase, and all those rates that we charge, again, primarily capital. I think it says 39% of overall expenditures in the sewer fund is going to be on capital. Our sewer system rehabilitation project has been rapidly underway in the last several years. We have $2.5 million planned this year, and that will just continue for years to come. Where we are today, the only thing I wanted to point out is our other revenues. Again, just like water, our capacity tapping fee has exceeded the budget. Very happy to have that. Very fortunate to be able to use that towards capital going forward. Our solid waste fund. Not my favorite fund, but this one always fun to talk about. It's our trash and the trash collection, recycling collection, and how we pay for it. Primary expenses in that fund is strictly collection and removal of solid waste and recycling. 100% of our trash bag sales and now trash tag sales go towards paying for that service. All that revenue that we collect on those sales is still insufficient to pay for that one service that we provide. And we provide other services in that fund like compost facility and the salaries that require that we need to help keep that operation going. So the fact that those rates haven't changed since 2020 and the rising increase of the collection, we're seeing a gap there. That gap is funded by fund balance or some of those miscellaneous revenues. We do get a yearly grant related to recycling that helps close some of that cost. Our budget expense is that big blue piece of pie. That one is demonstrating the solid waste and collection. So everything else in that fund is small in comparison to what the cost of collection and removal of solid waste and recycling is. Where we are today, meeting expectations. Down at the bottom on the right, we have our trash bag sales, very consistent with 2021. The difference being that we now have trash tags, still less than the trash bags. I guess there's mixed reviews as to what people like. We have people who come in who specifically ask for trash tags, but a large number of people still like the trash bags. So we're just happy that people are able to get their trash taken away one way or the other. So, last one we're going to talk about is our parking fund. Primary revenue from that is generated from our lots, our meters, and our parking garage. You'll recall that we had a moratorium on parking in 2020 and 2021. In 2021, the long-term gold meters had no ticketing until September of that year. So our hope is that as things get warmer, we're going to see people utilizing those. We'll generate some more revenue to help cover some of our very expensive infrastructure improvement costs. Of course, the largest of that is our parking garage. Very significant maintenance needs that we have planned every year and every 2 years to maintain that. In terms of where we are today, revenue is slightly lower than pre-COVID. Typically, we have 17 or 18% in revenues collected at this point. We're showing 14%, but typically in most years that number will increase in the summer months as it gets warmer. People get out, get downtown. Some of the big projects that we're looking forward to doing this year is funding an electric vehicle charging program, as well as looking into automation of our parking garage. Our parking supervisor, Stacey Hamilton, has been working to investigate those opportunities and working with the finance staff to see, what can we achieve this year and propose to council. So in summary, we are meeting expectations. Nothing really significant that we need to take care of at this point. Everything is operating as it should. Any specific line items that we may be over budget or spending a little bit more than we anticipated are being managed by our budget managers, whether they're lowering expenses and other accounts. But we'll be monitoring that and probably come before council sometime after the second or third quarter to ask for any budget amendments should it be needed. And then the final thing is just to remind everybody to call the finance department if you need financial assistance, and we'd be happy to point you in the right direction to get that. Any questions?
I have no questions, Richard. That was excellent. But I thought I would also just point out that we have asked Richard to come quarterly and give us these updates before. We didn't have that, and then we have our budget meetings at the end of the year, and this helps us be informed. We are going to have another trash contract coming up this year, so all of this information informs us, informs you. People love to know where their tax money is going to, and it is well used, and it is well managed, thanks to Richard and his team. Yes.
My apologies, Deputy Mayor Landis. We're having some technology issues. Could you please call a recess?
Yes. I would like to call a recess at this moment until we have our technological issues adjusted for our Zoom. All right, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Always fun to play the mayor. All right, we're keeping it lively today, and we're on to our next opportunity for citizens and visitors to be heard. Do we have anyone that has called ahead? We didn't have anyone listed, but
No, they're not.
anyone in the audience that is interested in addressing council on any matter? Okay. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. The following is a list of routine items which do not appear to be controversial in nature and which probably do not require additional discussion. They can be acted on by one motion in their current form. If discussion is desired on any particular item, any member of council or the public may request the item to be removed from the consent agenda, and that item will be considered separately. Does anyone from council have any items that they would like to remove and address? Anyone from the public? Okay, I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
That's a second.
Second.
All right, the consent agenda has been had a motion and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And that is everything that is on the white pages of your agenda. So we are going to the pink page now. All right. Madam Secretary, do we have any tabled continued or recurring items? Okay. All right. So we're going to start with the mayor's report. I have 2 items tonight. Let me pull them up. Hold on one moment. My first item, I make the motion that council amend its 2019 agreement with Dickinson College as part of the Dreyer Hall project for a period from May 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2023.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this particular item? Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes. And my second item is this is the Hospital Operators Recognition Week proclamation. So this is a mayoral proclamation, and although I am deputy mayor, I get to read it today. This is UPMC Carlisle Operators Week. So I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas we want to recognize the dedicated hospital operators, staff at Carlisle UPMC Hospital during this week of the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, or known to them as Hospital Operators Week. Whereas these operators are the cheerful voices that you hear when making a call to the Carlisle Hospital. Whereas the duties of the hospital operators include directing incoming calls involving patients, family members, physicians, outside office staff, and all internal staff to appropriate people and places while maintaining excellent customer service. Whereas they also initiate all codes, alerts, and conditions for the hospital, starting with the overhead page to alert the emergency team for an emergency. They are the behind-the-scenes first responders. Whereas the operators provide the on-call physicians with information, as well as pages or calls to the physicians as needed. The operators also monitor alarms, equipment, and give directions to visitors. Whereas the operators based in the Carlisle Hospital provide customer service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including weekends and holidays. Whereas with appreciation, we recognize the operators for their service and dedication, especially during these past years of difficult times. Now, therefore, I, Brenda Landis, not Sean Schultz, do hereby proclaim the week of April 10th to 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and thank the Carlisle Hospital operators for their commitment to the community. Is there anyone here from the, yes, I can hand this off to you. Thank you. on, we are going to go to reports from committees. We're going to start with Parks and Recreation.
Okay, I move that council approve the playground design for the replacement of Fort Letort at Letort Park as recommended by the Carlisle Kiwanis Club per an executed agreement between Carlisle Borough and Carlisle Kiwanis Club dated December 1st, 2021.
We have a motion to approve the playground design for Fort Letort. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on this item? I have one element that I need to.
So I would like to ask Andrea to give us a little bit of context on the agreement and the project.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to, before we get to the playground design, we have Dave Ely from Ely Associates and Mike Cornfield, he's the president of Kiwanis. Before we get to that playground design, I wanted to go over a little bit of history and maybe some of the reasons why Fort Letort is proposed to be rebuilt. So back in December of 2019, a playground assessment was done. And if anyone recalls, the actual Fort Letort playground was built in 1993, so that's about 29 years ago. The company who built or who supplied the drawings and designs to build Fort Letort, they had said it was expected to last 20 years. So with the proper maintenance, Parks and Rec has extended that life 10 additional years. So we're happy about that. And Stephanie, could you show some of the pictures? I wanted to show some pictures from the audit that was done in 2019. As we all know, Fort Letort is built from pressure treated wood. The inspection report from 2019 noted that there's visible damage, deterioration, and decay observed on several of the pieces on main support posts, framing, decking, handrails, handrail posts, accessible ramps, and roofs. So these pictures are going through. That's a handrail. You can see that splintering. The problem is that's another handrail. It's not just one handrail. It's not just one deck. That's a swing set. That's the base of a swing set. It's not the main base, but it's like a horizontal 2x6. There is decaying and splittering almost along in the entire Fort Letort. So that is what causes concern. The surfacing of the playground is also in need of repair. Since 1993, we've been filling the surfacing as like a wood. It's called fiber. It's a wood carpet. We've been doing that almost every year. We've also been resealing almost every year. So like we haven't resealed Fort Letort since 2018, but on a yearly basis, we spend at least $5,000 per year to reseal. The report said that, some of the repairs needed were extensive and, required some extensive action. And the report recommended that we begin planning for replacement. There was, some different things that we've done already in the report where, we've hammered nails down, added surfacing where we needed, but some of the main things like the splintering of the woods and the handrails, we have not done anything with that because it's significant to repair. So talking with Kiwanis, and when we took that all into consideration, it just really made sense to start looking at the replacement. It comes at a higher cost. It comes with the emotional connection of not having Fort Letort, but the benefits are that it's safer. The kids aren't losing play. I mean, we're still going to have we're going to have Fort Letort there. It's just Fort Letort, the next generation. So the footprint is going to be about the same as Fort Letort now. So that's kind of where we headed in that direction. So I guess at this point, I can introduce Dave and Mike if you guys want to come up to the podium, maybe go over what design that was come up with. I will say this was a design that the Parks and Rec Board took a look at. We provided wish list items. We talked with different people. So anyway, here we go.
Thank you very much for some background, Andrea. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I appreciate everything that you guys are doing for our community. My name is Michael Cornfield. I am the president of the Kiwanis Club. I am actually leading the fundraising efforts for our club and basically in charge of ensuring that this project is a success. You saw some of the pictures of the current condition of the Fort Letort. This actually coincides with the Kiwanis Club's 100-year anniversary, and this is kind of what we chose to really go forward and show the community our impact. We've been working closely with Dave from Ealing Associates on the project design, as well as the board from Parks and Rec, and we'd like to actually go over the design. If you have any questions for me on fundraising, happy to answer that. Have any questions on design? That's what Dave's here for.
Hi, everyone. I'm the fun part of the evening, I guess. Maybe. I enjoyed your presentation. I really did. Sorry. Let's see here. A little bit about me real quick. I'm Dave Ely. My father's George Ely. You'll see that name around a lot. He's the owner of the company. He's been doing this for about 40 some years. He started in a little brick building just down South Street here back in '77. And I got into the family business around '94 and have been doing it ever since. It is a family business. We're located now just outside of town on the Walnut Bottom Road. But this is what we do. We have done several of the parks in the Carlisle area, but also all over the state, New Jersey, Delaware, and we work with manufacturer out of Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. So we working with a relatively local manufacturer, and been tasked to put together a replacement for Fort Letort, which it's hard to say replacement. Obviously, we're just trying to put something there that's going to give a little bit of a throwback to the original design, and also bring in some of the modern materials, the modern play ideas that we've come up with, and give you guys something that's going to last, I'm hoping, at least 30 years or more. So I'm going to launch a real quick video here. It's just a quick little fly through of the playground design. I don't know if the volume's on. It doesn't need to be. Okay, good. Yeah. I think we went through an update before let's see here. Let's just go here. We good? So that's a fairly close proximity to what the playground's going to look like. As Andrea mentioned, the current surfacing is engineered wood fiber, which is just mulch. It's a special kind of mulch that's wheelchair accessible, but it does biodegrade and does require maintenance. What they've required for this project is that we do this one with poured in place rubber, which is a unitary rubber surface. It's a 2-layer system where they put down a 3 or 4 inch layer of recycled rubber, and then they put a layer on top. It's a wear layer. We're looking at something of kind of a light color, kind of a beige or tan color. It's extremely accessible, still meets all the guidelines as far as playground safety, etc., but requires much less maintenance. Over the course of the years, it's probably has, I would say, depending on the amount of use Fort Letort has, which I will say that is an excessive amount of use. I would say the life expectancy of it would be somewhere in the 10 to 15 year range. Now that can vary depending on some maybe every 5 or 10 year maintenance that you could do to maybe patch some areas, and there is a sealer that you can use every so many years if you choose to, but it's not a requirement. But it is something that from a week to week basis, you don't have to worry about the impact attenuation or the safety of the playground, because the surfacing is unitary. It is stationary. It's not solid, but it doesn't move around like mulch does. One of the concerns with mulch is areas lose any of its inches, and suddenly you're down to a thickness that's not providing proper impact attenuation. There were some other. I just wanted to real quickly see if this launches. We have another update. There were some other pictures of the playground itself, and we do have files available that we can send over to you, just showing a few more views of the playground. We wanted to try to, again, throw back to the Fort Letort style, keeping the natural look, giving it a fort look, but maybe a little different fort, like a Fort Letort 2.0. But obviously introducing some new types of play activity, some great new slides. Let's see. I'll click through a few of these, and then I'll just take questions. We have a tube slide on here. This particular tube slide, we have a couple of windows on it. Some people like to have a little bit of visibility in and out of the tube as they're going down. There is a wheelchair ramp that comes from the ground up to about a 2-foot high deck, and there's some activities on there for children with various abilities. And of course, that's the other really nice thing about the poured in place surfacing is there's activities all over the ground level as well that are completely accessible without barrier to children with, again, all levels of ability. And just going to show you a few more views here, because I know the flyby does kind of move, and then we'll I guess we'll just take questions, because I won't say this is self-explanatory. You've seen playgrounds before. This one is what I consider to be kind of a destination playground, as Fort Letort always has been. I think it has a lot of really interesting features, and I think that as far as the long-term maintenance, there's no wood on the playground. There is some recycled composite wood that we use to give it kind of the look of wood. That is a wood and plastic combination, but does not splinter, doesn't require the same kind of maintenance, doesn't require sealing or staining of any kind. The real maintenance that you'll experience with this primarily is going to be observational, looking for anything that's loose or potentially broken if there was vandalism. And then it's nuts and bolts. So if there's things that need to be tightened periodically, and we provide a full maintenance schedule for the borough that says recommended times to go out and what things to look for. But again, as far as the amount of time and money spent on annual maintenance, it would be significantly less than something that was made primarily of wood. Just flipping through a few more here. This is a nice accessible whirl that a child in a wheelchair with a walker can move up to, and there's a couple of depressed seats in it, and they can also spin with children of all abilities. So just one of the many pieces that we put in here. I could go on for a very long time. I did the other night at the rec board meeting, a bit more expansive, but if you have any questions about the play design, our company, the manufacturer, feel free to shoot.
Awesome. Dave, thank you for this. And thank you to Kiwanis. I think it's an awesome design. Super exciting. And you touched on, my question was going to be about accessibility. So you checked that one. And I think that helps us as council because we got questions about that near the skate park. So I think this would definitely fill a need within the borough. I guess for Dave and Andrea, is this design going currently where Fort Letort is?
Yes, it would be in the same footprint.
So it'll be a knockdown and then a rebuild. Do we know how long that area will be out of commission before the new forge is up?
Yeah, didn't we said 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, roughly. It's going to be weather dependent. I think the project at this point we're talking about doing a spring start, and as soon as we can start a lot of the process over the winter or in the months before. The surfacing itself requires warmer temperatures to install, but we can start the process early so that it's ready to have the surfacing installed as soon as the weather breaks, and that way the park's not under repair during that time. So again, 6 to 8 weeks. I'm getting a little bit more depending on the weather, closer to the 8, but with luck we could get it done a little sooner.
Great, thank you. I'm excited. I think with this and the skate park and the parks we have, we're kind of a destination borough, and our Parks and Rec department's great. So we're lucky to have them. Thanks.
So, Andrew, just to clarify the financing of it. So the agreement is that Kiwanis will pay for the replacement of the playground, and then the borough is responsible for the maintenance. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so the price tag we see is $655,000 or thereabouts. Does that include the fence?
Does not include the fence.
Okay.
So our fundraising goal is actually $750,000.
Okay.
Which would basically be checking every wish list we possibly can. The playground itself, for the demolition, for the resurfacing, for the playground materials, for the professional installation, and the pour-in-place rubber, $650,000. If we can raise more, we absolutely will. As a secondary to that, what we may end up doing is selling the picket fences, similar to how money was raised for the original Fort Letort, and have a community day where people come out and help us drill fence posts around the structure.
Okay. So then just as a follow-up to that, do you have a backup plan in place if, in fact, you don't make it to your $655,000 goal? Do you think you'll be able to build, can you right-size the project to fit whatever you do raise?
We could. I'm not putting a contingent plan in place at this point in time. I have all the confidence in the world that we'll raise the money that we need. In fact, if you don't tell anybody, we're at $600,000. We're at $300,000 of the $650,000 that we need, and we haven't even spoken about the project yet.
You're in a public meeting, but that's okay. I don't want to steal your thunder for your fundraising kickoff.
No, I am kidding. And we're holding a media day on April 27th. Everybody's welcome to join us. We're going to be inviting, obviously, the Sentinel, Penn Live, I think ABC, NBC, CBS. We're actually going to have a very large check being handed over to Kiwanis Club from a local community person in a very large dollar amount. So we're excited about all of this.
So then I just have one follow-up for you, Andrea. So maintenance-wise, do we foresee this costing us less per year because of the materials, or it's about the same?
I would say less per year, because now we spend about $5,000 when we have it resealed. So I would say less. Now, of course, there is always replacing slides and all of that, but we do that in our other parks as well.
Any other comments from council? I did want to note that we did receive a comment through email from Jim Cheney, and so that was taken into account. And I did want to say that I was on Parks and Rec as the council liaison for the beginning part of these discussions, so it's been going on for a number of months, and had some good discussion with community at those meetings, and so I was able to hear your initial pitches and seeing how this process has gone through. So it's wonderful to see you here, and I'm very excited to see how it all comes together.
I am as well. This will be my first playground.
I wanted to thank the Carlisle Kiwanis Club too for continuing through that, because we actually got the audit report in January of 2020, and then COVID hit, and it's been 2 years, and the initial president of the Kiwanis Club has since. He's older and he's retired from the Kiwanis, and Mike picked that up. So very happy that he was able to do that, and to the Kiwanis Club for taking on the project.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we have no more discussion. Then we have a motion, and it's been properly seconded. So I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes.
So that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. We're going to move on to economic development.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Landis. I have one item tonight. I'll make a motion that Borough Council may approve the subordination agreement for the property located at 30 West Pomfret Street, subject to meeting compliance with the Community Development Block Grant Program's requirements.
We have a motion for to approve a subordination agreement. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on this item? Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. That ends my report.
Great. I don't know how I had so many items to talk about tonight, but it's my turn. So for ERCP, I have a number of items tonight. I'll start by making the motion to appoint Morgan Goodling to a first full term as an alternate on the Human Relations Commission. The term will become effective immediately and will expire on February 28th, 2026.
Second.
We have motion properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? I will note that Morgan is also a recent addition to our HARB and wanted more volunteer opportunities, and we thought that was a great fit. So, all right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, I make the motion to appoint Ann Fisher Henson as the Dickinson College Student Ambassador to Borough Council. Term shall become effective September 2022 and shall expire May 2023, with the option for reappointment for an additional year of service thereafter.
Second.
I have a motion, and it's properly seconded, and Ann is here today, and I was actually able to just meet just recently for another. She interviewed me for a project that she's working on. So we had a lovely chat, and I look forward to having her up here. And this is your last meeting, though, isn't it? Oh, we appreciate it. It's yay, but oh my God. So we always appreciate the service that our Dickinson students give to council and perspective and insight. So thank you both, and I look forward to seeing you up here. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. I make the motion to appoint Mr. Robert Ackerman to a first full 5-year term on the LaTorte Regional Authority. The term will become effective immediately and shall expire on December 31st, 2026.
Second.
We have the motion that's been properly seconded. I will note that Bob Ackerman is on our climate action. Recently did a wonderful presentation on the Dickinson Teach-In Day with a couple other folks, and wanted again to expand his work in the community, and offered to be on the LaTorte Regional Authority. So, any other comments or anything on this one? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I make the motion that Borough Council appoint Mr. Joseph D. Grimes to a partial term as a member on the Civil Service Commission. The candidate's term will become effective May 1st, 2022 and shall expire on July 31st, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and it's been properly seconded. I will note that Joseph has been our alternate on the civil service, correct? Yes. Yes. And so this is a very convenient and helpful to have the ability of moving someone into a permanent position, and then we will put out another opportunity for an alternate on that commission. Any other comments on this one? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I make the motion that Borough Council enter into a data sharing agreement with the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, TCRPC, to share municipal road closure data from the borough to be published to navigation applications.
Second.
The motion has been properly seconded. Any discussion on this? Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And finally, I can almost end my report. I make the motion that Borough Council enter into a consultant contract with the Vereen Group to provide diversity, equity, and inclusion training services to non-uniformed borough employees in the total amount of $14,000, subject to the borough solicitor's review and approval.
Second.
The motion has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Well, that completes my report, and we are going to move on to public safety.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
I will.
That's a good question. Who is public safety?
It might be Sean. I'll take it. I'll make a motion that Borough Council may adopt an ordinance establishing a temporary parking ban affecting certain borough streets in conjunction with Carlisle Productions' 2022 schedule of events.
We have a motion to adopt an ordinance for temporary parking for Carlisle Productions events. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh, wait, sorry. It's a roll call. I did, I almost, but I caught myself. Okay. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gramsci?
Aye.
Mr. Hicks?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Landis?
Aye.
Ms. Mellon?
Aye.
Ms. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Stubbe?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes.
That ends my report.
Great. We're going to move on to Public Works.
I have two things on the agenda tonight. I make a motion to award the unit price construction contract for the 2022 street milling and paving project to the lowest responsive bidder, Kinsley Construction Company Incorporated of York, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $259,464.85.
We have a motion for a construction contract with Kinsley Construction. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been properly seconded. Any discussion on this item? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And then second, I would like to make a motion for the borough solicitor to draft and advertise an ordinance providing for the acceptance of Springview Street, Brookside Drive, Short Lane, a portion of Hauser Lane, and other public infrastructure constructed by Lee Torrent Meadows Associates as part of the Lee Torrent Meadows Land and Development Plan.
We have a motion to draft and advertise an ordinance. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion has been properly seconded. Any discussion on this item? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. We are moving on to new business. We have one item, as well as anything else that would be brought forward for House Bill 927 opposition resolution. And I'm going to hand this over to Councilor Stubbe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On Tuesday, the Pennsylvania House of Representatives passed a bill, House Bill 972, that, if enacted, would bar transgender women from participating in sports in categories that align with their gender identity. Sadly, this is part of a national trend and is a blatant effort to discriminate against the transgender community. For some, it can be hard to understand what it means to be transgender, especially if you've never met a transgender person. But we should all be able to agree that transgender children should be treated with dignity and respect, just like everyone else. They should be afforded the same opportunities as their peers to learn the important life lessons that sports teach: leadership, confidence, self-respect, what it means to be part of a team. Earlier this year, Utah's Republican Governor, Spencer Cox, vetoed a similar bill. In explaining why he vetoed the bill, Utah's governor said, "Rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. I don't understand what they are going through or why they feel the way they do, but I want them to live. And all the research shows that even a little acceptance and connection can reduce suicidality significantly. For that reason, as much as any other, I've taken this action in the hope that we can continue to work together and find a better way. I hope that we can work to find ways to show these kids that we love them and they have a place in our state." Tonight, I'm asking that we as a council adopt a resolution affirming the right of all individuals to remain free from discrimination and opposing Pennsylvania House Bill 972. The resolution I'm proposing states as follows. Whereas, if enacted, Pennsylvania House Bill 972, titled the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, would bar transgender females in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania from participating in youth sports in categories that align with their gender identity. And whereas youth sports teach accountability, dedication, and teamwork, and students who participate in youth sports benefit in ways that last a lifetime. And whereas transgender students deserve every opportunity afforded to cisgender students. And whereas, in 2016, the Borough of Carlisle affirmed the right of all individuals to remain free from discrimination or discriminatory practices, regardless of actual or perceived race, color, religious creed, ancestry, sex, national origin, handicap, use of guide or support animals because of blindness, deafness, or physical handicap of the user, or because the user is a handler or trainer of support or guide animals, or sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. And whereas Pennsylvania House Bill 972 is an attempt to discriminate against transgender individuals based on their gender identity. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Borough of Carlisle reaffirms the right of all individuals, including transgender individuals, to remain free from discrimination or discriminatory practices. And be it further resolved that the Borough of Carlisle opposes Pennsylvania House Bill 972 and any other efforts to discriminate against individuals based on gender identity. With that, I make a motion that council adopt this resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and it has been properly seconded. Does anyone want to discuss anything further on this item? Yes.
I just wanted to say that notwithstanding the fact that legislation like this bill and others that have been introduced in other states seems a clear violation of federal civil rights law and constitutional guarantees of equal protection, and notwithstanding the fact that legislation like this seems to be, to me, a solution in search of a problem, and that legislatures' efforts should be dedicated to the many concrete and real issues that face the people of the Commonwealth daily. Notwithstanding those things, this very spirit of this legislation is morally reprehensible, and it's blatant discrimination on the basis of gender identity. Not only have the authors of these bills not been able to demonstrate actual examples of harm caused by participation in sports by transgender youth, but legislation like this is itself already causing real harm. 85% of transgender and non-binary youth say that the recent debates surrounding anti-transgender laws like this one have negatively impacted their mental health. 86% of transgender youth have reported that they have contemplated suicide, and 56% have actually attempted suicide. Rather than seeking ways to support a population that is marginalized, this bill is intentionally divisive. So I strongly oppose HB 972, and I thank Councilor Stubbe for bringing this resolution forward.
Thank you, Mayor Landis, and thank you, Councilor Stubbe, for bringing this issue up. Sometimes it's easy for folks to point across the river and say, well, that's Harrisburg. What can we do about it? And I know it gets frustrating for us in local government, but I think this is a great statement for us to make, as Councilor Stubbe mentioned in the resolution. It aligns with our intent of our anti-discrimination ordinance. I think the good news is the governor has said he will veto this legislation, but I think to Councilor Mellon's comments, I participated in youth sports. I coach youth athletics, and everything in our resolution is what those things are about. Being welcoming, respecting others, teamwork, and that's what sports should be about, and that's what sports should be teaching. But unfortunately, even this debate is, as you just heard, those statistics bringing harm to our transgender community. And I think about all the folks that got up and spoke when we went through the anti-discrimination ordinance, and how they talked about relief and acceptance and those feelings that they had. And then the two residents that we had come last year when this bill was introduced and asked us to act. And at that time, we didn't think this was moving. And now here we are a year later. So I guess I'll close tonight with saying to the folks in our community who are transgender, who are part of a transgender family, we're with you. We support you. You are loved. You are accepted. And I think that's important. And that's an important message that we need to send, that we're not in this community going to be discriminating against anyone. Thanks.
Just very quickly, I want to say, as a former commissioner for the Carlisle Human Relations Commission, I think that this resolution is very important. We have to stand up against any kind of discrimination whatsoever, and our children need to know that we stand with them regardless. We have to find ways to protect them, and I think this is one of those things that we are doing. So I want to say thank you also.
I agree with everything that has been stated, and I think that this is something that we as a council can and should do as often as needed, when we can have our voice collectively heard up at the state level. It doesn't mean we always get what we want, but there is importance in saying it publicly, putting it out there, and I really appreciate Councilor Stubbe and Cramsey and other folks that are up at the state level more often than I am, and know when things are passing and can bring these to our attention in a swift manner, so that we can be on the forefront of this discussion in the opposition. So we have a motion and a second.
Deputy Mayor
Yes.
Landis.
Oh, Joel. So sorry. Yes.
No. That's. First of all, thank you, Jeff, for bringing this forward, and thank you for all the comments. I concur with everything from my colleagues here. I did want to add that, we have organizations at the collegiate, the high school level, whose whole function is to make sure sport is competitive, uplifting, and productive. And they're constantly evolving and coming up with solutions. And I will always defer to their judgments. And we don't need legislators like those from our district who are suggesting their own moral imperatives to do what we have dedicated organizations to do. And I really applaud Councilor Stubbe's action and support it. And look forward to voting yes on it.
Any other comments before we? Okay, I will call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We don't get that very often, so thank you. we appreciate you staying the entire time just to do it. Okay, so we are going to go with our reports from council members and staff. So we're going to start at the end with your last ability to give your comments. So what do you have to offer us today?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, first off, I want to, this has already been mentioned with my last council meeting, so very bittersweet, but I know that Anne here will, when she steps in the role, will do absolutely great things. I have the greatest confidence in her. Some updates from Dickinson are that the mask mandate was lifted following CDC guidelines. There is a Voices for Racial Justice workshop centered on tools and tactics for bridging civic engagement on Saturday, April 23rd, and that's open to the public, and you can RSVP at engage@dickinson.edu. The last day of classes is May 6th, and commencement will be Sunday, May 22nd, so there'll be a lot of families here in Carlisle on that day. And then some activities happening on campus over the summer. Dickinson's hosting a small session of summer school from May 31st through July 6th. There are 2 youth programs, including the Central PA Youth Ballet and Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth in June and July. So Dickinson's excited to welcome them back after 2 years. Also back after 2 years, Dickinson will host 2 important community events, the Summer Fair, multiple events from June 25th to July 2nd, and Bluegrass on the Grass Festival on July 9th. But lastly, I just want to thank you all and for allowing me to be here at council meetings to have made me feel welcome. It was a pleasure to serve as the student ambassador and very grateful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and being such a bright and engaging student on our panel.
I would just like to say thanks to Andrea and the Parks and Rec Board for all the work that they've put in over the last months and years on the Fort Letort project, and we're really looking forward to seeing how that develops. And also thank you to Deputy Mayor Landis for filling in so ably while the mayor has been absent.
I have nothing further this evening. Thank you.
The only thing I wanted to note, because it might have been overlooked on the consent agenda, but Amani is happening again this year because I wasn't actually sure. I was trying to find out, but it's going to be May 7th, so some students could attend. You know, it's after school classes end, but you might need a break on a Saturday. So Saturday, May 7th, we'll have Amani back downtown. And again, I think that that's a uniquely Carlisle event that we need to, amplify, and hold it near and dear to my heart. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Landis. I'm going to keep saying Mayor Landis. Don't tell Mayor Schultz. So just one thing tonight, and Councilor Hicks might appreciate this. There was a backup on 81 as we're becoming accustomed to. So on my commute to work, I had to drive through town, and there's a lot going on as always. So I just wanted to give a hopefully a shout out to our residents to be patient and be cautious. Mark and his team are out doing great work, repairing things, doing proactive things. Utility companies are out, so they're working hard. They're helping improve the borough, but I know it can be sometimes frustrating to have to wait your turn to go through a work site. But please, now that these projects are happening with the weather changing, just be safe out there. And if you can walk some places. Thanks.
Actually, mine is pretty quick also, and I want to say thank you to Andrea. We've reached out to her. Hope Station has reached out to Andrea on Parks and Recs to partner on a couple of things, and honestly, I think it's something that's really important. And some of the things that we're looking to do over the summer will be good for the park, and it'll be good for the residents that live over there. It shows that there is a great partnership between the borough and the residents. I think that, and that's one of the things that I really want to work on and be a part of as I'm on this council, is making sure that, the residents there feel that they are that they're being seen and that they're being heard. And so I just wanted to say publicly, thanks to Andrea. Our conversations have been really good. She's given us, her and her team have given us some really great ideas. They're supporting us on some of the things that we want to do. And it's really important work. So I just wanted to say thank you. Oh, and Susan too, because Susan actually made a really good suggestion to us on something that we're looking or hoping to do. So I would say thank you to Susan for that also.
Susan is great. So, Borough Manager, do you have anything that you would like to bring up tonight?
Well, first and foremost, Jesse, I just want to thank you for your service and your interest in our community, in our organization. We wish you the very best. You've represented the college so well. And Anne, we're looking so forward to your contributions. You definitely shined during your interview that the mayor and I participated in for Jesse's successor. And Anne, if you read her resume, she's got aspirations. Actually, Jared's job. So, so we're looking forward to welcoming Anne, and we have a lot of fun at the staff level. I too, I know that this team over here, they're just phenomenal. Every time they're asked to step up, they're there, and couldn't do it without without any one of them. So they're a talented pool, and I'm fortunate to have them as far as the leadership team, and so we can continue to carry out council's objectives. So thank you, everyone. Keep up the good work. And special shout out to Richard, who did a phenomenal job on the financial snapshot. I think his presentation, his delivery, he is able to speak to all of us, whether we're skilled in finance or whether we're a novice. So I appreciate your work, Richard, on that. Thank you.
I agree, and I also want to thank Councillor Crampsey for reminding me that Councillor Hicks is still here and that I should call on him. So.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Landis. Yeah, just a couple things and variation on a theme, and just wanted to sink in what Richard outlined this morning, that despite this tumultuous past year, we actually had a downtrend in the number of water terminations and delinquencies. Part of that is getting funding, getting support, right? But most of the work is getting the word out and working within our community to actually reach those affected folks. And so just a big thank you for the assiduous approach you took to doing this, and it just reflects the professionalism of your staff. So thank you, Susan. And the last item, last Thursday, the president of PPL, which is our electricity utility, her name is Steph Raymond. She held a breakfast with elected officials, business leaders, and nonprofit organizations within our service area in Harrisburg. Mayor Schultz asked me to attend in view of our climate action plan, and the event was very encouraging and informative. Beth Kim from Community Cares was there, who, as most of you know, was the recipient of a very significant grant from PPL during the pandemic. Michelle Crowley from the Commerce was also in attendance. Just want to say I expressed Carlisle's appreciation for PPL's engagement with our climate action activities, and reiterated that their participation will continue to be critical in our reaching our our greenhouse gas reduction targets. And Steph echoed her support and encouragement for what we're doing. But I specifically emphasize how critically important it is to work with low-income communities to improve the energy efficiency of our properties, and particularly of multifamily housing. I mentioned to our energy efficiency and behavior task force is focused on improving energy efficiency in residential and commercial buildings. We see a lot of potential in bringing together multiple partners to address some of these more challenging properties. And I wanted to get Steph's commitment that PPL would partner with the borough in developing smart efficiency improvements in our most needed buildings. So as most of you know, it's it's particularly challenging to incentivize landlords to make energy efficiency improvements, right? Because they're not bearing the energy costs. So I see this as a win-win-win concept where, one, we can reduce energy costs for low-income rentees, which two, leaves more cash for paying rent, which is a benefit to landlords, and three, it helps PPL meet their Act 129 energy efficiency requirements that the Public Utility Commission levies on them. So I just want to say I look forward to our Climate Action Committee putting some policies and plans together for Council's consideration with PPL support in the coming months. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. That was actually very informative, and I'm really glad that you were able to attend that. Does our solicitor have anything? Okay. Anyone else on our esteemed staff? Okay. I did not make it in 16 minutes tonight. I apologize, but I do believe that we are at the moment of adjournment, so thanks for letting me play this game, and I appreciate for Sean Schultz to come back. And we are adjourned. Thank you.